I think we all want to think it's going to be very, very easy and it's going to work out perfectly, and all our desires become our expectations. But over time, as things get more and more accurate, in some ways it gets easier because you know exactly what you should be doing.
The point is we make the world a better place by helping people improve themselves and improve their lives. That's the point. And if we don't grow the business, we cannot sustain the impact.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, for episode number, I got to make sure my camera is focused. Today, for episode number 1810, it's Freestyle Friday. This is what I was thinking, Alan, for Freestyle Friday. The more...
I don't do a whole lot of that.
You don't do a lot of thinking?
No.
In general, or for Freestyle Friday specifically, or?
In general.
In general. Same. I try not to. It's dangerous. It's dangerous.
I haven't really contemplated much.
Anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. I try to avoid it. You know? I try to avoid it. This is what I've been thinking recently. This week has been very stressful. We were just talking about the fact that 2024 has probably been the hardest year of business ever.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say that. And not just external stuff. Just, I feel like a lot of the lessons have just been really, really shaking. They're like jarring. They're jarring lessons that are shake the bedrock of everything that you thought you knew.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the place that I wanted to go with today's episode. I feel like the more weight you are under in a constructive manner, the better you handle it when you get the most overwhelmed you've ever been. I say this on other shows, and I've said this here many times. In the beginning, I would have one coaching call and record one podcast episode, and I would have to go take a nap. It was like, that's it. That's all I have to give today. Now, when I have like 6 calls, how many do I have today? All right, yesterday I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yesterday I had 6 meetings, and I was like, this is a super easy day. When I woke up and looked at my calendar, I was like, this is easy. I'm going to have so much time to do stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah, how'd that go, by the way?
I got a lot. I got a lot done.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot done.
Sometimes I say that. I'm like, oh, this is going to be... I had a Monday when you were at Podcast Movement that was fairly open, and it's the first fairly open Monday in
long time.
7 years, so I was pumped. You and I you called me.
Yes.
And we had client stuff. So I just always am so optimistic. I think I can get so much done, and then by the end of every day, it's, okay.
We did what we did.
Going to have to push a couple things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really good representation of how... I think it's really hard to imagine if we had a scale or a meter of overwhelm versus competence or capability. Back in the day, if I was 10% strained, I was like 100% overwhelmed. Maybe 10% challenged. I was 100% overwhelmed. And then I think it was like 20% challenge, 90% overwhelmed.
Nice.
And then eventually it's like, right now I am 100% challenged. I am beyond 100% challenged. And I'm definitely super overwhelmed, but probably not as much as I was in the very beginning with a 10th of the challenge.
That's actually why when you said 2024 has been the hardest year we've ever had in business, my mind says yes, but also no. And the also no is we are more equipped to handle it. And it's a lot of things are so much better than they used to be. I mean, so much, right? There's way more demand. I'm very, very grateful for that. At the beginning of every interview that I go on, I always start with gratitude. Just thank you so much for having me. At one point, this was a dream. I always say this. I say I started listening to podcasts 9 years ago, almost 10, and they really helped me sort of reorient my life in a more positive direction. And I'm just really grateful to be here. So thank you. And I don't always say that. If the host is at all sort of entitled and or disrespectful, I'm always trying to feel it out first. But ultimately, most of the interviews have been amazing lately. And I always try to start there. to bring this to the point that I originally wanted to make is what we were dealing with. Why has 2024 been the hardest year in business? I said this to Kev earlier. It's not a side hustle. It's not a dream. It is. It's our dream, but it's not a dream anymore. In the beginning, we're chasing dreams.
Yep.
And we still are. Like, this is still a dream, but now it's a business. And that's for anyone who owns a business that has a team, and the responsibility is just, I mean, compared to the first year, how much more responsibility do you and I have in our lives?
All of it.
Yeah, it's not even close. If this is a 10, we were what, a 1? Not even?
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of relationships, you're married, all of it, the team. And so ultimately, it's such an interesting thing. You just posted, Kevin sent me a WhatsApp screenshot this morning that said, "Big win, brother." And it was a picture of you with Evan Carmichael with a video that has over 9,000 views on YouTube of you and him on his YouTube channel, I believe. I was like, cool. And then I went about my morning. In the beginning, that would have been, dude, no way. Right? Yep. And the compound effect, it's such a fascinating thing because you still want to be grateful for those things. And what did I say to it? I think in WhatsApp I said, yeah, man, compound effect. Mm-hmm. And then I went about my morning.
Yeah.
And what I meant by that is, awesome, let's get to work. Because that would have been life-changing impact. 8,652 people are listening to an interview with Kevin on YouTube. In the beginning, at the very start, that would have been wild amount of impact.
That's what you think you're doing it for in the beginning. In the beginning, it would have been like, okay, we made it. And it was very similar to me. I sent it to you and I sent it to the team because I wanted the team to see the results of all the hard work we've been putting in.
Yeah.
But very different than the beginning. For me, it was like, all right, cool. I told Taryn, I was like, yeah, Evan posted that interview. I didn't even know he was going to do it. And I didn't even, shout out to AA on the team, he told me. He's like, hey, just so you know, because I am going to use that for an episode of Podcast Growth U. And he's like, oh, Evan just dropped it. And I was like, I didn't even know he was going to do that. Cool. So I had no idea. But to Alan's point, yeah, that was something that I used to focus on that stuff a lot more and then take my eye off doing the stuff that got the results.
Yeah. Impact is still the goal.
Of course.
But the impact goes away if you don't run the business. And we went to a business seminar event one time that said the point of business is making money. That's not true. The point of a business is to serve. You have clients and customers. Clients meaning you have a service-based business, customers meaning you have a product. It's the only difference. Same thing. The point of the business is to serve, help people get to the next level, help individuals, podcasters, and business owners get to the next level. That's the point. Otherwise, there's no point in anything we're doing. The point is we make the world a better place by helping people improve themselves and improve their lives. That's the point. And if we don't grow the business, we cannot sustain the impact. And that's why it's so stressful. And I don't know if stressful is the right word, but there's two types of stress. There's distress and eustress. Eustress is a challenge that's good that you choose, like a tough workout. Distress is, oh my God, we just lost a client because of some mistake or blah, 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 blah. Business is both, for sure. But I think in the beginning, everyone has sort of starry-eyed, impact-driven focus. And then by the time you get results that most people in the beginning would love, I mean, most of the podcasts that I go on, I went on one yesterday. It was awesome. It was so cool. They started a new app 6 months ago. They started a podcast. They were very sweet. It's actually a really cool app, by the way. But ultimately, you could tell she was so nervous. Remember when you used to read the bio with like big guests and you would be basically about to jump out the window? That's what she was. So I'm just sitting there trying really hard because now I'm that guy. And I remember what that was like for Kevin because I never did any of the intro. And she was so red. She was stuttering over her words. She could barely read the intro. And I just was there and I just wanted to be compassionate and empathetic. And she was so sweet. It was great. But I could tell she was extremely, extremely, extremely out of her league and out of her comfort zone. But that's what it is in the beginning.
Yeah.
She's starry-eyed. She's excited. They both are. They're young. They have this naivete to them of, we're going to make an impact and we're going to change the world. And you will. But, oh, you guys, I just had this moment of the next 5 to 10 years for you two, if you stick with this, is going to be just slowly stripping away your innocence,
I did a
ahead.
podcast pre-call yesterday with someone who is a sophomore in high school. And I was like, good for you.
What was it? He was 14, right?
No, her name's Sanvi.
Oh, okay. I did one with a 14-year-old. Coolest thing ever, but you first.
Her podcast is all about mental health.
Nice.
And it was just awesome. She emailed me earlier in the day and said, hey, can we push back the meeting for a half hour? And I was like, yeah, we're good. And then when she logged on, she's like, yeah, I just got home from school. And I was like, oh, that's why you had to push the meeting back a half hour. Okay, interesting. But it was just super cool to see people that start and they're super excited and they just have a love for talking into the microphone. It always resonates with me because that's where this all started for me too. So sometimes I'll say, I see me and you. I see my excitement and my curiosity.
Do you see their future?
In my naivete.
My naivete.
But not in a bad way. I think Next Level Nation, what is happening? If you've thought to yourself, I want to try coaching, but you don't really know where to start, group coaching would be a wonderful place for you. That's really why we created it in the first place. We start a new round every 90 days. So if you're hearing this, go to the website, nextleveluniverse.com, and we have the landing page where you can actually hold your spot right now. Even if there's a group going on right now, you can still lock your spot for the next one. The biggest thing that we've seen is as we get closer and closer to the date, unfortunately, some people end up missing. The group fills up and they can't do it, and then they end up regretting that. So please head over to the website. The link will be in the show notes, and we would love to see you there. That's kind of the beautiful thing. The beautiful thing is, you've heard us say this before, and you've heard me specifically say this before, that one of the quotes from a book that has helped me more than anything is by Morgan Housel. The book is Same as Ever. Alan recommended it to me, and I think they're close to finishing it up in book club. And it was essentially one of the biggest mistakes that we make as human beings is we value certainty more than accuracy. And in the beginning, I think we all want to think it's going to be very, very easy. And it's going to work out perfectly. And all our desires become our expectations. But over time, as things get more and more accurate, in some ways it gets easier because you know exactly what you should be doing.
Yeah.
When the Alan said innocence, but when the innocence in the naivete, it's such a weird word. I feel like I'm a stuck-up person when I say that word. It sounds so strange to me.
Naivete.
Naivete.
Yes.
When that goes away, what is left is accuracy. And when you have the accurate understanding of when I do this, I get this result, it's almost like, it's obviously easier said than done, but if you're baking a cake, the first few times you have no idea how to accurately bake the cake. You don't know how much flour, how many eggs, how much butter, the temperature, how long. How long does it sit? You don't know. But as you do it and you do it and you do it, eventually you get the recipe down and you know exactly what the recipe is and you write it down, and then guess what? Other people can use your recipe. And that, I think that's the beauty of it. But I don't know if you can get accuracy without making mistakes along the way, because unless you just use somebody else's cookbook, which is fine. But not everybody is trying to make the same thing. And if you're not trying to make the same recipe, you can't. If you have different ingredients and you're not using eggs, it's going to be different. You're not using flour.
Like you can learn from a cookbook, but the meal you're making is always going to be different in life and business.
Yeah. But I like to think of that as empowering. Now, I probably didn't in the beginning.
When the naive goes away, naivete.
Yes.
We're watching a movie on Netflix right now called Persuasion. It's a remake of an old one. It's like a slap comedy where it's theater based, and it's a period piece back in British at the height of the British Empire. It's a romantic comedy, and it's hilarious because they basically are just making fun of like that. Yes, like Emily and I are dying because it's also kind of making fun of just arrogant, ignorant men in this really hilarious satire way. It's actually really funny. I don't know why I brought that up. Oh, the naivete thing made me think of it. It's like the only thing my father likes more than his own reflection is reading his book that was written for him about him, you know. And anyways, it was pretty funny. So what was I going to say? When the naivete and innocence goes away, for lack of better phrasing, now you know what to do, so things get quote unquote easier. No, but now you feel guilty every time you're not doing them. And I think that growing and scaling a company, dude,
a lot of business talks lately, huh?
Yeah, I know. And you were telling me to start
BGU, son. Yeah,
Business Growth
that's
University.
Why. One of the reasons why is because you've been talking a lot of business on the show, and I got to get you the freak off of it.
Yeah, seriously. But there's principles in this for more than just business, which is, okay, let's turn this to a different metaphor. Seriously. I was thinking about this earlier. Bodybuilding. You and I, when we were young, we thought that bodybuilding was awesome. And we saw these people on stage, and we thought it was so inspiring, and that's great. And then we find out that majority of them are on steroids. Mm-hmm. It's basically whoever suffers the most that wins the show. Like, I remember in the beginning, I had this dream naivete of I'm going to be a fitness model and a fitness competitor and a fitness coach, and I'm going to help people get fit, and everyone's going to want to get fit, and you know, I'm changing my life, I'm hydrating, I'm sleeping, I'm doing all these things, the 5 fundamentals of natural fitness. And yeah, that's all good. And yes, it did work. And yes, I was in the best shape of my life. And yes, I got some clients. And yes, I fitness coached for several years. But there was nothing about that wasn't harder than I had originally thought. I think when you're young, everyone in high school thinks like, oh, when I'm an adult, I'm going to have a beach house. And when I'm an adult, I'm going to... And I don't want this to be depressing, but the truth of the matter is pretty much all of what you think when you're a kid is wrong. It's inaccurate. Pretty much everything you think as a kid is inaccurate. Now, maybe things are better than you think, and you are very pessimistic. Maybe things are worse than you think. I don't know. But pretty much everything you think is inaccurate as a kid. And as you become older and older and older, and you learn how the world really works, and how people really work, and how you really work, it can be very sad. It can be very sad. And I think that's part of the process. What is growth? Growth is, I now know something I didn't know before about myself, about other people, or about the world. And what does that mean? Okay, that means we're going to have to work a lot harder than I originally thought. Okay, that means we're going to have to learn leadership. Okay, that means we're going to have to spend $400,000 in order to get to $1 million. Right? And a lot of people don't know that, right? If we gross $500,000, do people know that we had to spend $400,000 in order to do that? No. Like, I don't know if people understand that in business, right? When you go into a business and you are a customer and you think something's overpriced, unless you're a business owner, you don't really realize that business is going to go out of business if they don't charge that price, because they have dozens of other competitors that are trying to do the same thing for less money. And can you talk to that at all of like what?
No,
what
because we have 3 minutes, Mr. Business Pants.
Yeah. What were you most naive about that you can give to everybody? Because ultimately we were both naive in different ways.
I thought I was going to make my own schedule and get to do what I want when I want. And here's the truth. I could do that if I wanted to be far less successful than I desire. After 7 years. Now I could do that more, but I still couldn't just not work at all if I don't feel like it. It's just different. It's different than here. This is the thing that I would say, and this is for everything, and this is based on the conversation that we had yesterday. Most of us start something because of the sexy upsides, and most of us are just not super aware of what the unfortunate downsides are, because nobody sells you on the downsides. Nobody sells you. I used to be the guy who I thought everybody should have a podcast. I do not think that. I think that is bullshit, and I think it's stupid.
Okay.
And I think the people that say that are the people that want more people to start podcasts so they can get more business. I don't want
I used to think everyone should start their own business. Way
definitely
back.
shouldn't.
Definitely
yeah,
not.
Definitely shouldn't. But that's a that's just an
I
awareness.
don't want to say
thing.
everybody. I would say
Yeah.
way more percentage than I do now. Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to
and
clarify
it's just an awareness thing that comes with time after, because you didn't know what it was going to be like to be you 7 years into business, and how much you've been challenged, and you've struggled, and you've learned about yourself, and you've unlearned about yourself, and the things that you've done more of, and the things that you've done less of. It's just hard to know. It's hard to know, but that would be the lesson before we get out of here, because we have 2 minutes. Just try, this is advice I would give myself, just try to become as familiar with the unfortunate, unsexy downsides as you are with the pleasure of the upsides. Because the longer something is, I think the harder it is. This podcast episode is 20 minutes, not that hard. Doing one of these every day for a week, it's pretty easy now at this point, but it's very hard. Then doing it for 2 weeks, harder. 3 weeks, harder. A month, harder. A year, harder. 3 years, harder. And then eventually it's like, oh, you have this business and you work every single day to grow the business, and you've done it for the last 7 years. Of course that's going to be harder than just doing one thing. So I think the longer you do something, the harder it is, because you learn so much about yourself, and you just have so many opportunities for quote-unquote failure. Not
But the
necessarily,
better the results and the better you get.
100%.
And again, upsides and downsides, yeah.
100%. All right, we got to go. If you are looking for help with podcasting, reach out to myself. We have group coaching coming up. Do you know the date off the top of your head?
I don't.
Okay. we
October
will have
16th, I think, but I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll have it in the show notes, and we'll have the link for the 16th round of group coaching. And Alan is still taking on coaching clients. If you are looking for accountability, awareness, consistency, strategy, all of that happy jazz, Alan is your guy. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out.